but just in case you say that you don't want it to be recorded, then leave fast the class. Tonight, we are the first of 3 lessons in meaning, mindfulness, and meditation. This is a topic which I care deeply about. I think it's often overlooked in Judaism, the importance and centrality to this particular topic, spirituality, and particularly mindfulness and meditation within Judaism. For many, many years, since it became in vogue, it was actually the Jews that brought meditation to the West from the East, and those that are looking for enlightenment, for more spiritual heights for meditation, would go off to the West, Buddhism and other groups, and unfortunately never explore within their own Jewish tradition these ideas. And there's so much to say. And I had the fortune to work for a year preparing a course for the Jewish Learning Institute, which some of you I think would attended last year, Meditation from Sinai, about Jewish meditation. And in these 3 lessons, what I want to do is, in particular, look at how Jewish practices that we probably already do somewhat are grounded and centered around bringing us to more mindful living and to be more present. And so it's not just an add-on to Judaism, that there's like the regular Jewish rituals, and also there's this whole spiritual practice on the side, but actually part and parcel of Jewish life is designed in order to make us more present, more aware, and to enhance our meditative and mindful practices. So we're just going to start off with a quick little exercise. I'm going to try to share my screen. I hope I'm successful here. One sec. Okay. So if you're on Zoom, just shout out if you see this screen up.
Yeah, I see it.
Fantastic. Perfect. Okay. Is it the full screen? Just let me know where it's part of the screen. I don't see you. Full screen. Okay, fantastic. I don't see you though, so let's try to get that back. No, I didn't see the screen. Okay. Okay, back to where we were. Sorry, guys.
I don't know if you can watch them and also look at the screen. I think it's got to be one or the other. Now I'm moving up.
Okay, we're gonna try this. Move this to the side here. Okay. Those of you here, we're going to do part of the screen this. Okay, so lesson 1. And the first thing I want you to consider in these 5 scenarios, I want you to consider 1 to 5 how present you are when you partake in them, when you participate. So number 1, reading a book. You can actually write this down. You can have this in mind, and you can share in the comments if you're willing to. Number 2, praying in a synagogue. How present or distracted are you? On a phone call with a friend, waiting in line at a supermarket, or at your desk in work. So mentally or physically, whatever you would rather, jot this down, and just for yourself to know the everyday activities you go through in life. How present are you while you're doing them, or how distracted are you on 1 to 5? I can say for myself, unfortunately, swinging towards the 1 on some of these. So what I think we all know, which is maybe why we're here, is that we want to be more focused and present, right? We're distracted, and that takes away from so much. We have less meaning, we are less productive, our relationships suffer because of that, we're not fully present to the needs of those around us. Every area of our life is affected because we're not there. But most importantly, we're affected. And look at this text. This is a classic source, the Bar Tanura, one of the commentaries on Ethics of Pirkei Avot. And he says something beautiful. A certain pious man would pray, "May God save me from having a scattered soul." People would ask him, "What is a scattered soul?" He would respond, "Those who own many assets that are located in several divergent locations are forced to divide their attention to stay on top of all of them, causing their soul to scatter." So this is written a long time ago. You can only imagine if he would be in the age of the internet, of social media, of smartphones, the scattered soul is a lot more commonplace and a lot more scattered. We're all scattered. There are alerts. I have 150 emails waiting for my attention and a business call, and then I have to take care, pick up my kids from here, and I have to make sure to get back to that person. And next week I have this coming up. Our lives are all over the place, and we can never actually get sort of present what I'm doing now because there's so many other things I need to take care of. And we find ourselves jumping from one thing to the next all over the place. And what we're really looking for is presence. And the Talmud says it beautifully. Talmud Sanhedrin 100b. Don't grieve about tomorrow's trouble because you know not what a day may bring. Perhaps tomorrow you will no longer be, and you will have worried about a world that is not yours. So very succinctly, the Talmud says, what are you worried about the future? It doesn't exist right now. It may never exist. You might not be here. The troubles you anticipate might not be here. So why waste energy on them? Just worry about what's happening right now. Now, this is a lot easier said than done. It's very difficult to actually be here and just tell yourself nothing else matters. Because in fact, things do matter. We have to worry about the future or else it won't happen. Things won't get done. We have to work to anticipate what's going to be next. We have to do things now, plant seeds now to grow things tomorrow. So we can't live in this willful denial of the future, as blissful as it may be, but we have to actually anticipate what's going to be. So what does the Talmud mean, and how can we actually live this out? How do we achieve it? So before I go on to read a few sources and suggest a Jewish approach, does anybody have something they want to share?
Does anybody have what?
Something they want to share on how they manage to stay present and be focused on what's happening now, not to allow anything else to distract you.
Well, it's always been said to use the breath.
Okay? Use the breath. So
Focusing on the inhalation, holding it, and then the exhalation.
all right, very good. So breath work can be definitely a great tool to just settle yourself and balance yourself and be very present. And we're going to get to that in a moment, a deeper look at the breath and what that can actually help us with. But that's good. Anyone else have? Okay. So there's a Jewish practice, which I think if you don't do all the time, most of us do a lot of the time. And that is Shabbat. The seventh day of the week, we rest. There's a really strange passage in the Talmud, and that at face value makes little sense, and the commentaries grapple with what it means. We have it in the next source here. The master said, so who this master is, we don't know, this is one of the great rabbis. A long stride takes away 1/500th of a person's eyesight. So taking long steps is going to detract from your vision, from your eyesight. What is his remedy? So how does a person cure themselves from this form of blindness? He can restore it by drinking the wine of Kiddush on Shabbat Eve. So you have some form of loss of eyesight that's restored by this magic potion, the Kiddush wine on Shabbat. And the commentaries grapple, trying to figure out some link in the nervous system between the legs and the eye, that a long step may affect the eyesight, and there's a lot of discussion on what this can mean. And if it's an actual physical ailment, then how does wine help, and specifically the wine on Shabbat? It's a very strange passage in the Talmud. And there's a commentary that I found that I think is beautiful, and really takes this passage and makes it something which can be relevant to us and resonate, I think, in our lives. What does it mean? What do you think it means to take long strides, long steps? Let's back out a little bit and see, what does the Talmud actually mean with this language? Long strides, loss of eyesight. What would it mean if someone is taking large, long steps? Any suggestions? They're hurrying. Okay, very good. Someone taking long steps in a rush. They're running somewhere. They're hurrying. There was a rabbi one time who saw someone running in the market. He says, "Where are you running?" He says, I'm trying to make a living. I'm chasing success." So he said, "How do you know success is in front of you? Maybe success is chasing you and you're running away." Rushing isn't always the answer, right? We're rushing places. We're trying to get somewhere. So maybe the Talmud is speaking about someone who's running always, rushing, trying to get somewhere, right? Now, if we want to even break that down a little bit further, why do we rush places? Now, sometimes we have an appointment, we have to be somewhere to schedule time. But usually, why are we trying to run? What does that imply?
We're anxious.
We're anxious, okay, good.
We're trying to accomplish a lot in a limited amount of time.
Okay, good. We're trying to get so much in, we're running, and we're over expending our time. Good.
We're worried about completing everything on time.
We're worried that we may not have enough time, so we're trying to get everything in. So oftentimes, and I find myself doing this, that I feel rushed even when there's no time constraint. I'll give you an example. I'm stuck in traffic, right? And I hate traffic. I get nervous, I get anxious, even when I'm really not in a rush. And I'll often take a longer route, which will actually take me longer than had I stayed in traffic. But I'll drive that route because I don't have to stay in traffic. I feel anxious, I'm stuck. I'm going somewhere, I can't go there. And I can drive on a highway, I'll drive longer, but at least I'm moving. So it's not even a time constraint thing. Just, I need to be moving, I need to be trying to get somewhere already, right? I don't know if you find that the same way.
Yeah.
So, sorry? So, I think one idea is the following. And let's look at the next passage. If I were to ask you, what was the first sin in history? What would you answer? Without looking inside the papers that we have them.
Yeah, the apple.
The apple, okay? Adam and Eve. You agree, I know agreement.
Absolutely.
Everyone on Zoom, what would you say the first sin in history? Okay, I'll tell you that actually, according to the Midrash, which reads this into the text of the Torah, the verse, there was a sin before the first sin, before the original sin. And that wasn't committed by human beings. The earth itself sinned. God was creating the world, and God created the world through his utterances, right? God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. So there's sort of this, somehow, obviously it's figurative, there's an instruction, and that a creation emanates from that instruction. So God instructs the earth to give forth vegetation and trees. There's a very peculiar phrase used, and a minute difference between when God instructs there to be trees and the trees actually being created. The verse says, God instructed that the earth give forth trees of fruit that grow fruit. And when the trees were actually created, it says, trees sprouted forth that grow fruit. The first time, trees of fruit that grow fruit, or just trees that grow fruit. And the Midrash notices this and says, there's something lying here, the verse hinting at something very profound. That the earth did not follow through on what God wanted in creation. What does a tree of fruit mean? The Midrash has the following. We have this in the next text. In the process of creation, God instructed the earth to produce trees that even their bark is edible and tasty. Yet the earth did not obey and produced trees with only the fruits being tasty. So the plan, the blueprint was that the entire tree, the bark should be edible, should be a fruit as well. So trees of fruit that grow fruit. The tree itself is a kind of fruit. But what actually was created with the earth gave forth was tree, this bark and is wood. It's used for different great things, but it's not food. Only the fruit that grows on the tree is edible, has nutrients, and tasty. Now, okay, you read this midrash, and for many years I studied the text. I love this midrash. Interesting. God wanted it one way, it happened another way. So first of all, how does the earth sin? There's no consciousness to the earth, or is there? Is there moral choice that the earth itself is having? And second of all, who cares if the bark has a taste or not? And there's a fascinating explanation of this that I think is very beautiful and profound. The earth sinning means that the world was designed with a defect. Means there's an ideal reality, but God purposely made the world in an unideal place, meaning with faults. And that's the role of human beings, to fix the world, tikkun olam. Our role here is to make the world a better place than God created it. In a certain sense, the Midrash says, we become partners with God. God did stage 1 of creation, and he wanted us to do stage 2 of creation. So he made a world that is not perfect, that has faults and flaws, and we're here to try to fix that, to try to make it a better world. So the earth sinned means God had an ideal vision, but the world that actually was created and actually sprouted forth was less than ideal. The ideal vision was that the bark should be tasty. The bark should be enjoyable and nutritious. And what that means to us is the following. The bark is the process towards getting fruit. The trunk of the tree and the branches is a process, is there towards eventually the budding of flowers and fruit. In the ideal world, the process itself is meaningful. The way you get to your success, the journey is meaningful as well and profound. Not only the results. So God wanted that there should be a tree, every element of this tree, even the part of the tree that's only going to serve as a foundation towards the fruits, is also nutritious, also tasty, also has benefit, also has meaning. But in actuality, the world that came to be, the trunk is just wood, bark. The branches are just wood. Only the fruits we enjoy, which is so much of our life, where we're looking for results. Right? This is a metaphor for what we go through on a daily basis. We want to achieve something. We want to get somewhere. We want the results. We want the destination. The journey is only an excuse or a necessary evil we have to go through towards achieving our results. If we could have our results in an instant, without the work, without the effort, we'd take it in a heartbeat. Now, I want you to think in your own life, where do you see this resonating? That you're working to achieve something, and all you want really is the achievement. And you have to pull yourself through the ropes of the effort, because otherwise the achievement won't come. But the effort itself, the trunk, which is the main work that you spend your time on, is actually tasteless. You have no purpose, no meaning in it, because you're only tasting the fruits of the labor. The labor itself is not something you enjoy, appreciate, or even want.
What about the use of wood?
No, absolutely, it's still useful, the wood, good point. But in this metaphor, the idea of taste means you appreciate it. You enjoy it. Work has benefit, whether you appreciate it or not. labor has its benefits. Like the word has practical usage and benefit, but you don't appreciate it. So you use the word for fire, you use the word for building, but it has no taste, and nutrition means it's not enjoyable. It's not meaningful. And when we live in this mindset, in this consciousness of the tree not being tasty, of the process not being meaningful, which is how most of us live most of the time, it turns out that most of our lives are just a means to some end we're chasing. It may be weeks on end, you're just working towards an end goal, and for weeks you had no pleasure or passion or engagement that's meaningful. It could be hours in the day you're working towards something. But those minutes, hours, weeks, days, years for some people, they're working on building something, is painful. They have zero enjoyment, zero meaning, but they have to do it in order to achieve the results. That's the world that is naturally created. That's the human tendency that we're born with. That's the trees that sprouted in creation actuality. But we can rise above that, transcend that. We can elevate ourselves to a consciousness to be able to appreciate the process itself. To bring the world to its ideal state where the trunk of the tree, the bark itself, is tasty. So just to go back to the passage in the Talmud about the loss of eyesight, we now have a better appreciation for this. Taking a long stride, like you said, rushing somewhere. We're rushing places because we think, in our mindset, the destination is what matters. And so I don't need to be here now. I need to be somewhere else. The faster I can get there, the better, because the whole way there is meaningless. So I just need to be there already. So I'm running. And it's not only physically running with our feet. The same is true with our relationships, bringing up children, spouses, in our workplace. We're just trying to reach goals. We're trying to get results. And we're trying to rush everything that's in between where I am right now and where I want to be eventually. If I can speed track that, and that's so much, there's a huge industry today to just speed up all these processes, because I don't care for them. I only want the result. That's the long strides. But what happens then is we lose part of our eyesight, our vision. We're missing out on so much. When you're rushing, you don't see the beauty of the environment around you. You miss the flowers. You miss the sounds of the dogs. You miss everything, right? The small little thing you don't notice because you're rushing places. So your vision, your appreciation for what is right now is diminished because you're running somewhere else. So how do we move from this consciousness into a more profound consciousness? So I want to share with you a very deep spiritual idea that comes from Chassidus. Chassidus is a body of work in Jewish spirituality, which was, it's a movement that was founded about 300 years ago by a rabbi named the Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Israel Baal Shem Tov. And he started a mass movement that focused primarily, heavily, on a personal relationship with God. In those days, Judaism was very rigid about following the laws, scholarship, and he empowered the masses, simple people. It's about you having a real relationship with God. And he emphasized joy and prayer and meditation and love of people, love of God. He highlighted those elements of Judaism, and his students developed an entire system of Jewish spirituality and spiritual teachings, which is generally defined as Chassidut or Chassidus. Chabad, the group that I belong to, is a Hasidic group and has a very rich library of literature of Hasidic texts, which delve into different areas of spirituality, but a very practical spirituality that define our world and our lives and the divine. There's a very foundational teaching of Hasidic texts that is based on earlier Jewish ideas, and it's based on actually a line we say in the daily prayers. We say in the daily prayer, "Hamachadesh b'tuvoy b'chol yom tamid," that God renews the world every single day, constantly. God renews the world constantly. That isn't just poetic language. It's actually a reality. We see the world being static. It just is. And it was here a minute ago, it's going to continue to be here. Things just are. But I'll give you a great metaphor that I think encapsulates this idea perfectly. A screen. Even better, a projector screen. So imagine a projector screen that you see an image projected onto the screen. When you look at that, you see a static image. If you didn't know better, if you didn't know about technology, you would think it's pasted onto the wall. If it's HD, if it's good graphics. The image seems to be there. But in actuality, it's just light being projected onto the wall that gives off the image of whatever you're seeing, right? If you block the projector, you block the light, the image on the wall disappears. Now, nothing was erased. Nothing was there to be erased. The light that's being projected is no longer being projected, right? So that we can understand. And if you look at it more closely, light is traveling. So really, every moment, a new image on the screen. Because the light travels and keeps traveling. And there's a new sort of array of light, whether light's a ray or a particle, however you want to look at it. Light's constantly flowing to constantly project the image on the screen, which is the exact same image, but it's actually being renewed constantly. Or think of a film. You look at a movie, you see just a constant movement. But really, it's pixels that are constantly different pixels on the screen that are lighting up. New image being created constantly that's just flowing so smoothly to us, it seems continuous. The world is the same way. The world seems to us so continuous and just steady and static that things just are. But if we understand creation, that God has brought the world into being from nothingness, then he has to continue to propel it into being, or else it would cease to be nothing. It's like a projector screen. If there's nothing on the wall and you just put the image there, you're going to need to continue to project an image. If you want to have a painting on the wall, you need beforehand materials. You need paint, a paintbrush. But if there are no materials, the only thing it could be is a projection. So if there were no materials to build the world, God, his creation must have been a form of projection. Creating a world which has to be continuously recreated every moment. Now that's on one foot, this huge spiritual idea that people study for weeks and months. But I think it gives us enough to appreciate that every single moment, God is investing energy into the world. Consciously investing energy into the world. Let's look at the next text, which takes this idea and makes it into a practical meditation. It's a little small on the screen. I hope you can read it if you have a paper in front of you. This comes from the Rebbe Nachman Schneerson, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, in a talk from 1984. A healthy person wouldn't do anything without reason and motivation. Surely then, God, who is the perfect creator and ruler of the world, wouldn't create something without a defined purpose. Since each day and each moment of the time spectrum is an individual creation, it follows that the service of each day is different from every other day. In other words, the purpose of any one day is unique to it, not just in comparison to the other days of that week or month or year, but unique among all of the days in the entire spectrum of history. The proof of this is simple. Since God creates each day individually, he surely has a unique purpose for each of those creations. And if not, he wouldn't create it. The task of a Jew who is created to serve God is to utilize each day consonant to God's will by realizing the unique purpose of that particular day. Let's unpack this text a little bit. Imagine you study a company from scratch. You're building it from bottom up, building a company. Every decision you make about hires, about what you're buying, how you're furnishing the office, your inventory, you're going to want to really make every decision to get what you need, not more, not less. Having extra employees is going to cost you and not going to be worth it for your bottom line, right? Buying extra inventory isn't going to be good for you. Having furnishings that doesn't help the office. So everything you buy is going to be decision made. This has purpose. This is valuable. This makes a difference to our company. And when a company is mismanaged is when someone isn't making those decisions and we're just buying things and no real thought process being put into who are hiring, how many people are hiring, right? But someone running a good company means every decision made is in line with the mission and has the bottom line in mind. This is going to benefit the company, right? Now, if we project on God a little bit, we can imagine he's probably a pretty good CEO. So let's imagine he runs a good ship. The world he created, each part of the world he created, every idea, every element of the creation, each one of us has a purpose. And if I didn't have a purpose to serve in my life, I wouldn't be here. He wouldn't need me. So each one of us has a unique purpose, which is why we're here. Every object that exists in the world has some purpose that it adds to the world, which is why it's here. So if we understand that God created the world, everything in existence would have its own individual and unique purpose. Now, time itself is a form of creation. Every moment is a new moment in time. So just like every object and every part of the world has a purpose and a meaning, every moment's the same thing. Every moment has its unique purpose of what it can achieve, what it's designed to do, and what we can do in that moment. No two moments are alike. What was good for me yesterday isn't good for today. Yesterday was yesterday, today is today. Good for me a minute ago isn't any more good for me right now. Each minute, each moment is like another opportunity. What's this moment for? What can I do now that I couldn't do before that I won't be able to do ever again? If God is investing himself in this moment, something here is unique, some potential there that I can do something. Which also means no moment is ever a means to an end of another moment. Because then it wouldn't have a purpose of its own. So if this moment is if we can divorce this moment from everything that came before it and everything that came after it. On to the next moment already. But imagine I could freeze a moment in time and say, does this moment have a value? If what I'm doing now is only a means to an end, this moment doesn't have value. I have to go through this moment to get to the next one. If I only want the destination, I'm walking somewhere, I only care to get there. The way there is absolutely meaningless. Then all those moments, minutes, that I walked there had no value. I had to go through those moments in order to get to the moment of value, destination, where I really want to be. Which means there were minutes of my life, minutes of creation of the world, that God was creating it for no reason. only serving something else. No real, doesn't exist on its own, has no value or purpose. But this theory of creation tells us that no, every single moment has value. Every single moment has individual, independent purpose. So this can totally change the way we think about things. Because when I understand this, when I appreciate that I'm created for a purpose, and every moment of my life, God has designed a purpose, something I can do in this moment. Even if practically I'm working on a project to see results, I realize that this moment of working on a project, God is like investing his energy into this moment. This moment is something. It's a moment in time that's valuable. I may be learning by working on a project, something new. I may be helping someone. I may be have an opportunity to think of a new idea. Whatever it's going to be, every moment has incredible value. In the Hasidic parlance, there's a Hebrew word which is hard to translate. Someone who lives this way is called a panimi. Panimi comes from the Hebrew word panim, which means inner. It means someone who's seeing the inner meaning of every single moment. They're invested in the now. And this is profound because it turns mindfulness on its head. In the classic mindfulness practice in the world today, which is borrowed from Buddhism wants to take us away from everything. The whole world we're experiencing, divorce yourself from the world. Imagine just you're separated from your own experience and transcendent. And so mindfulness is a practice of being able to distance yourself from your own experience of the moment. And almost imagine that you're not feeling what you're feeling. There's you and watching these feelings, watching what's happening. So it allows you to be totally not taken in by things that are happening, and that way you can be present. That's sort of a very simplified version of what mindfulness, with a capital M, in today's culture is. And it's really a Buddhist idea that is, in certain ways, very un-Jewish. It's almost an escape from the reality, from the real grind of life, to be able to go away from it and find presence and peace of mind by stepping away from everything. But this Jewish brand of mindfulness is exactly the opposite. It's finding presence and peace by investing ourselves totally into this moment. So we're not running away from anything, but we're facing this moment entirely because this moment is all that exists right now. So the Talmud says, don't worry about tomorrow because tomorrow doesn't exist. It's not saying you shouldn't plan. It's not saying you shouldn't invest in the future. You shouldn't try to figure out what's going to be and work accordingly right now. It's saying only things that exist right now in your life matter. It could be that the potential for the future does exist right now in your life. So it matters. If I can do something now that will help me in the future, that thing actually exists right now. So I can do it now. So it's the future that is sort of embedded in the present is part of the present. But there's something in the future that I can't do anything about right now. And it doesn't exist in this moment. And I shouldn't be worried about it right now. So I'm fully invested in the purpose and meaning of this moment. What can I do right now? And if I can't do anything about that anxiety I have about the meeting tomorrow, if I'm not in a position right now to think about it or do anything about it, it's not meant to exist right now. It's not part of the purpose of this moment. And if I'm fully investing myself in whatever this moment has to offer, that wouldn't come up. It's not part of it. And so the mindfulness we're experiencing here is fully investing in the incredible, immense potential of this moment that's unique and has its own purpose. And that way, every single moment, we're only worrying about them. Everything will get done because I'm going to still work on the plans for the future. I'm still working on but I realize it's not only the results that matter, it's not the future that matters, Right now, I'm working on the preparations. That's what matters. The preparation matters. Whatever I can do this moment, I'm investing in this moment, is all that matters. It's all that God is creating right now. The future hasn't been created yet. There's no energy being invested into that. And this is the idea of Shabbat. We speak often about the 7 days of creation, right? But if you look at the text, only 6 days of creation. On the 7th day, God rested from creating. So 6 days of creation, 1 day of rest. Why do we call the 7 days of creation? And the Talmud says there was 7 days of creation. Something was created on the 7th day. You know what?
Rest.
Rest was created. Rest. Now, what do you mean to create rest? Just stop doing things, you rest. There's an active resting on Shabbat. God rest doesn't mean God was doing strenuous labor and God I have to take a rest, right? 7 days a week is getting too much. Lie on the couch, God's taking a breather. Resting means you're not doing, you're being. Whenever you're doing something, you're exerting your energies into something else. You're investing yourself into something outside of yourself. When you're resting, it means you're just coming back to being yourself. You're not trying to achieve anything. You're not investing anything into anything. You're just being, you're present. The whole week God was creating. He was using his energy to make something, to build, to create a world. On the 7th day, God said, now I'm investing myself into creation. Just being here, being present. Which is why we rest on Shabbat. Not only to mimic God, but because God is so present in the world, we want to hold back from doing anything. Just experience his presence. We rest. So Shabbat is about stopping to try to achieve something, to go somewhere, to get somewhere, but to allow ourselves to be here right now. Appreciate the creation that is. Appreciate the world that God made. Appreciate who we are, not what we can do. And that's what the Talmud means. Taking long, if you go back to this passage of Talmud now, it sort of makes sense. This is a teaching from Rav Kook, which I'm elaborating on, but this is the kernel of the idea of reading this passage of Talmud. A long stride takes along 500th of a person's eyesight. If you're only looking for results, if you only value destination, you're losing the eyesight, you're losing the eyes and the real prize. You're losing sight of the present moment. The potential every single moment you're missing because you're so busy looking for the next moment. How do you restore your eyesight? How do you restore this vision, this consciousness? How do you allow yourself to invest in every single moment and be present to the potential that is right now? Celebrating Shabbat, drinking the Kiddush wine. Shabbat is taking in, allowing yourself to experience it, just being. And he elaborates on what 500th means and why specifically drinking the Kiddush wine, but I don't want to get into technicalities of his specific teaching. I'll share quickly. Drinking the wine, he says, usually eating is to have energy in order to do something else. So eating is usually a means to an end. On Shabbat, it's a mitzvah to enjoy eating and drinking. So just enjoying the wine is in itself already an end. So he says that's an example we have on Shabbat, this idea of something which is usually a means to an end being an end in of itself. Okay, it's complicated, but I'll tell you on one foot. The Midrash says that the distance from here to heaven is 500 measurements. And so he says basically, if you're only looking for destination, you're looking for heaven. You're missing that link between earth and heaven, getting from here to there. It's 1/500. There's a whole it's elaborate teaching and a little cryptic and complicated, but he has a reasoning for it based on Midrashic sources. But the general idea is like if you're rushing, you're missing out, you've lost your vision, Shabbat restores your vision. Celebrating Shabbat is not just commemorating creation. It's not just spending time with the family. It's allowing yourself to fully be present to what is in the world, to what God has given you, to the potential every single moment. And by stopping to work, by just resting, we allow ourselves to not try to achieve something, but just experience what is right now. And we can take Shabbat into the rest of the week. But living with that consciousness the whole week. Not, obviously we're trying to achieve things. We have to have ambitions and achieve something. But even while we're trying to achieve, appreciate that this step of trying to achieve is in itself an achievement. The process is itself valuable. Not only the goal, not only destination. Now, how do we make this a reality? And there's a very beautiful idea that we'll end up with this. I'll give you a little background first. It gets a little mathematical, so bear with me and tell me if I'm not being clear. The way we divide time is significant. We divide time by years, by months, by days, by hours, by minutes, by seconds. And these are all useful tools in how to make sense of the flow of time and measure things. The Kabbalists speak of these as being more than just useful tools. But divisions of time actually are divisions of different forms of energy. So days of the week are significant. Every day has a different energy, which is why there's 7 days in a week, because there are 7 energy sources in the divine. 7 midot that Kabbalah speaks about. So each day is a different sort of experience. Sunday is an expression of God's kindness of chesed, which by light was created. Monday is the expression of gevura, of restriction, which when there's the division between the upper and lower realms. And everyday creation mirrored a certain attribute of God, and every single week that's revisited. Some people like to think of Tuesday being a lucky day because in creation there's twice the word God thought it was good. God thought it was good. So Tuesday is extra good. That's repeated every Tuesday, the energy of goodness in the world. So days of the week. Every year has a different energy to it. Think about it, the way the Kabbalists speak about divine energy is almost like the table of elements. We have some basic elements, and then different combinations create different elements. So taking hydrogen and oxygen, 2 hydrogen, 1 oxygen, we're going to create water, right? So the same is true. There's different sort of, in the divine creative energy, different energy types, which are characterized by the characters, the alphabet. Every letter has its energy form, and the different combination of letters create different matter, different elements of the world, which is the Hebrew name of every given object. That's a discussion for itself. But the idea is like this. We divide time into hours, minutes, and seconds. So every hour has 60 minutes. Of 60 seconds, means 3,600 seconds in an hour. There's a very ancient Jewish tradition of dividing time differently. Instead of saying 3,600 seconds in an hour, we divide an hour into 1,080 divisions, units. In Hebrew, they're called chalakim, which means little units. And in all Jewish literature, which goes, in ancient Jewish literature for sure, time was always measured with hours and these units, which is each one's 3 1/3 seconds, because an hour is divided into 1,080. Why 1,080? So the technical reason is that it's a good number, and the ancients used it because it's divisible by 2, 4, 3, 5, 6, 8. So it goes into a lot of numbers. So is 100, by the way, but 1,080 became the number. But there's a spiritual reason to it as well. And in a lot of works of Kabbalah, it says that there's different ways of using God's name, combining the letters and vowels of the Yud Kei, Vav Kei, God's name. Altogether, there's 1,080 combinations. And every hour, there's sort of a burst of every single one of these different combinations, different energy types, and then that repeats itself. So the division of an hour is the division of this combination of God's name. Because time is defined by change. So this constant change of energy in the world. Now, why am I getting into the mathematics of how we divide time? Because it's another fascinating teaching. How many breaths does the average person take in an hour? Take a guess. How many breaths do you think you take in an hour?
1,080.
1,080. Beautiful. The truth is, I Googled it. According to Google, it's between 900 and 1,200. So 1,080 sits right in the middle. And in Jewish texts, it speaks about 1,080 breaths in an hour, which I guess is a median, right? It says, why? 1,080 breaths an hour, dividing time by 1,080 units in an hour isn't by chance. And here's a beautiful teaching. It comes from Reb Shlomo Eibeshitz, and it's a number of different sources as well. I'm going to read it together. This, I think, can be a very practical daily meditation. And more than that, continuous meditation on everything we learned from this class. He writes the following. It is known the tribe of Yisachar divided the hour into 1,080 parts, with the intent that the name of God can be combined into 1,080 unique combinations. In every one of these moments, a new energy from one of those combinations gives life to the world. This is why a person must breathe constantly at an approximate rate of 1,080 breaths an hour, because divine energy pulsates through the world and energizes everything, as the verse indicates, and you give life to all things, and manifests in our life through the air that we breathe. Since each moment is a fresh energy, we need to breathe each moment to take in the energy of that moment. We can't be animated at any given moment by the energy of the previous moment, since the world has moved on to a new energy that has redefined all of existence. This is the way the world has operated since its creation and will continue to operate. Why do human beings need to breathe? Because we have to constantly have a new, fresh lease of life. God could have maybe programmed the body differently. You live, breathe, and use oxygen. But we need to have every moment a new breath, almost a new lease of life, because it is a new life. It's a new moment with a new energy and a new potential. And if we're still carrying the breath of the last moment, we're living with a stale energy, with a stale potential. This moment has something new to offer. We breathe it in. We get new life that's going to give us new potential for right now. Then breathe in again. And our inhale and exhale mirrors God's inhale and exhale of creation. We're sort of breathing in every out breath of God. God exhales and we breathe in that exhale. And as we breathe out the old energy, God's sort of breathing in, taking in the energy, that to and fro, that give and take of the energy pull. And so this allows us, every single one of our lives, when we're focused, or we mentioned before, breathing, it's not only about calming yourself down and allowing yourself to just escape everything. I focus my breath so nothing else distracts me. That's escaping all distraction, escaping what's happening right now in the world. We're looking for the opposite, to immerse ourselves entirely in what's happening now, to be fully present to everything that exists right now and the potential of this moment. And breathing, focusing on our breath allows us to do that as well. Because we're focusing on the fact that I'm breathing right now, I'm breathing in a new divine energy, a new potential. This moment has something valuable to offer. I'm about to breathe it out. So this moment can't only be for later on. It's going to go away, disappearing. What does right now offer? What's the purpose? What's the value in this moment that's never going to come back? What is God intending for me in this very moment in time? Every moment is fresh. Every moment is new. Every breath is a new lease of life, a new potential. We breathe in. And I'm just going to do a quick summary, and if anyone has any questions. So the key points, we discussed this tonight. Number one of the greatest challenges is being present and fully experiencing each moment. I think we all relate to that. Every moment is a new burst of divine creation with its own purpose. Nothing is a means to an end. The process is as purposeful as the results. On Shabbat, we celebrate divine rest, the power of just being, of appreciating what is right now, not what can be, not what we're achieving. Every breath is a meditation on the fresh energy and potential within each moment. Now, this is the tip of the iceberg on really Jewish spiritual meditation and mindfulness. It's a sort of a crash course. There's a lot to say, a lot to learn, and a lot more we're going to say in the next few weeks. But what I think is brilliant about this particular idea is that it grounds it in Jewish practice. So Shabbat is harnessing this idea and bringing it into our life on a weekly basis on a macro scale. And then every single breath is bringing it into our mind, into our consciousness on a micro scale. So we don't just have this idea, we studied about it, we learned about it, we're able to bring it into our lives, to practice it, to live it, and to be aware of God's presence, of our own presence, and the purpose available to us in every single moment. Any questions or comments or rebuttals?
I have a question.
Sure.
In focusing on each moment, it seems like there's a need to also embrace the fact that each moment is maybe imperfect, or maybe you aren't your most perfect self in this moment. And it made me think of that phrase, Gamzulova, and it's like generally things maybe aren't perfect, but maybe you're working towards a better end, or it will work out, or something like that. And I was wondering about your perspective related to this topic, about like Judaism's point of view on you working towards being better, like whether it's a better member of a community or a better Jew or better in this moment, and how that idea might relate to this concept, and whether that's also maybe part of that like uniquely Jewish perspective on the topic.
It's a good question, and it's a loaded question, and we need probably more time than this allows right now. But on one foot, I would say two comments towards that, but there's a lot more to say, I think, as well. One is, I think actually the best way to getting better is by breaking it down moment to moment, right? So if we have, I want to be a better person, and we have the ideal in mind of what a good person looks like. How do you get there? And so many people get stuck in, I want to be that, and we almost convince ourselves we are that because we want to be that, but there remains this huge gap between where I am and where I want to be, who I am and who I want to be. But saying, okay, to be that, I have to every moment do this A, B, and C. So by focusing on what I can do right now towards that, and we'll break it down into limited, right now, if I want to be there, I have to right now do this. So living in the moment is not saying the future doesn't exist. It means whatever part of the future I can achieve right now, I'm going to do right now. But it's what I can do right now that's going to build towards the future. Does that make sense? And I think it goes with this whole idea we started the class with in the beginning, that there's an ideal and there's a reality. And God purposely made them unequal, right? Because he wants us to move from reality to move reality itself towards the ideal. And that's our purpose, our mission in this world. Or else we don't serve a function. God's perfect. He could have created a world perfect. What did he do that for? But the function of human beings is God deliberately made the world imperfect, including made each of us imperfect. And our role is to perfect our own lives, to perfect the world around us, and make a difference. But we make that difference through moment to moment, achieving the potential of each moment. That's how we make a difference in the world and in our own lives to grow and build. And if you focus on each moment, before you even know it, you've done so much, you've achieved so much, you've become so much. There was a rabbi in the Talmud of Yochanan, and he commented, he said, I don't know when I die whether you're going to take me to heaven or hell. And they asked the commentator, he was a great rabbi, dedicated his entire life to doing good things. And one commentary says something so profound. He never had the moment, the time to judge his progress. He was so fixated, focused on what needs done this moment. He never took the liberty to step back and see, where have I grown to? What have I achieved? Because he was so fixated on what needs to be done right now, what can I do right now? And within every moment, you can't judge where you got into because only this moment exists. Seems maybe that's maybe a little extreme. I don't know if that's healthy for us. But when you're so when you were just fixated right now, you end up growing, immensely. But you're not focused on the growth that you're going toward. You're focused on what I can do right now towards getting to where I want to go. And the journey, the process itself is valuable as well, right? The Baal Teshuvah, someone who's gone through a process of reformation is greater than the tzaddik, someone who's initially or simply good, because the process, you learn so much along the way. And the process itself is not just a means towards getting better, but the process itself is something you learn from and grow from and is valuable.
I'm trying to understand, the topic was like meditative. Is it just saying that this process that you're describing to be a better person and go moment to moment is meditative? Is that where meditation is coming in?
It can be a meditation, and I think the breathing exercise of recognizing every single breath as being a new potential is a meditation of its own. And if you just step outside of what's happening and just breathe in and realize you're getting a new fresh burst of life with a new potential, and you're able to then bring that into the moment of what you're doing, that's a meditation and can be a meditation, and it's definitely a way of living mindfully. I mean, you can define meditation however you really want. It can be, closing your eyes on a mountaintop, but it could also be being very focused on something specific. And you can use this breath work as a meditation on the class in general, or the topic we discussed, just meditating, thinking of the breath and allowing yourself to picture or recognize the fresh flow of energy that you're breathing in every single moment.
Yeah, I have a question. So instead of taking long strides, we're being mindful of what we're doing as we go from A to B to A to Z, right? We're not rushing. We're being mindful. We're being the power of the president's today's lesson. So the long strides is what diminishes our appreciation of the commodity, the value of the time that we're given, because each moment, as you said, it has value. It's like a commodity, yes.
Right.
So going back to the idea of the long strides, what would you say? We are mindful of what we're doing when we're doing it? Yeah,
we can still rush places, and sometimes we need to run fast. But the long stride is a metaphor that I don't care for what I'm doing right now. I'm only trying to get somewhere. And even when we're working towards something, be mindful that the work towards that something, if that's what I'm doing right now, means it's purposeful right now. It means God is actually creating the moment right now for me to do this. This being a preparation. But this preparation is the entirety of this moment, and it's purposeful. Sometimes we'll be able to realize what the purpose is, sometimes not. But knowing that it is purposeful, because the entirety of God's energy is being invested in what I'm doing right now, this moment. And this moment has its value for what it is right now. And if I'm doing it right now, this is what matters. This is what I'm doing. This is all that matters. So even if I'm running somewhere, the running itself is valuable. I'm not only looking to where I'm going, but sensing the way there as being a value as well.
Okay.
So it's not about rushing, but walking slowly. It's using it more metaphoric as not just trying to get somewhere, but even while I'm going there, even if I'm running, but while I'm going there, I realize right now is what I'm doing. I'm running, and running is a good exercise, right? So right now I'm doing something. I'm not just trying to get somewhere to do something else. No moment is a means to an end of a different moment. It's an end of its own. Thank you all for joining, and I'm looking forward to seeing you back if you're hopefully coming back. The weather hopefully will be better next week and more people can join in person. To next week, Tuesday, 8 o'clock, same time, for lesson 2. And there's 2 more lessons to come, lesson 2 and 3. So I am looking forward to the discussions, and I hope to see you all then.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening. Thank you all for joining.
Very
Thank you.
helpful. Thank you.
Bye.
Have a
Good
good
night.